do it. And we're really appreciative of her. And let's give her our love.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
I was told I need to do this.
So, we changed up Sunday morning in response to what happened at the Boston Marathon. Gary is always wanting me to move that microphone out of the way, so
Staging.
for the pictures. So anyway, today's talk is called The Energy of Forgiveness in a Crazy World. And we do live in a crazy world, don't we? But this is nothing new. It's always been a crazy world, hasn't it? I mean, can you remember in the Bible what the first crazy event was? Other than Eve listening to the the serpent.
I thought it was the creation of Eve.
Cain and Abel.
Yes. Cain and Abel. So from the very beginning, there's been craziness. What's another great crazy thing in this world that has happened? Call it out.
9/11.
9/11, yes. Even earlier in history. What else?
The Holocaust.
The Holocaust. How could that have occurred? Genocide. How could that have occurred?
It still occurs.
Yes, it does. And what about slavery?
Human trafficking.
And it still occurs. It's an amazing thing. So we live in a crazy world, and that's not to be questioned. But how we respond, now that is what we're going to be talking about today. So I remember earlier this week, right after the bombing, on Facebook, somebody said, well, should we turn off the news? Now here at Unity, this is a point of discussion. Should we turn off the news? Some people say yes, because the news is nothing more than bad news mongering capitalists who want to sensationalize and get money from sensationalism, right? So, and there's a point to that. And then others would say, well, we can't bury our heads in the sand. We need to be aware of what's going on in the world. And I say that there's something in between regarding the news. And that is, we can't shut it out. I mean, if anybody did turn off their television, were you successful in not hearing about the event?
No.
It was probably on everybody's lips, right?
Lips, internet.
Yes.
Even I couldn't avoid it.
So, but the difference is the saturation. So, when my son had just graduated from high school, and he joined the Army. Not what his pacifist hippie mother or father would have wanted, but it was his choice. He joined the Army. Now, I had just been introduced to CNN, and my son was sent to the Persian Gulf. And you know what? I was so afraid. And I was glued to CNN. I wanted to know what the heck was happening, what could possibly happen to my son. And you know what? Being glued to CNN just intensified my fear. And finally, one day I prayed, said, God, I need to surrender my son to you. I cannot go on like this with this fear. And the message I got was, turn off the TV. prayer, and when I did turn off the television, an amazing thing happened. The peace that passeth understanding just came over me. It's like, this is out of my hands. It's in the hands of God, in the care of God. And I get to let go and let God. So we don't have to saturate ourselves with the news, because it does us no good. But on the other hand, if we know what's happening, guess what? We can actually be proactive about events in the world. And I invite you all to consider how we can be proactive. So as we're watching bad news, we don't have to watch it passively. Instead, we can do what?
Pray.
We can pray. And we all know here that prayer is powerful, isn't it? We can also be proactive in another way, and I will get to that in just a moment. Now, here at Unity, we believe that every person and every circumstance is actually a teacher who has come into your life to help you learn. Absolutely. And part of our learning is to look at things differently. So Einstein said, you cannot solve a problem with the same thinking that caused it. You have to look at the world with new eyes. And he also said, what's his definition of insanity, everybody?
Doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results.
Yeah. So how many of us do the same old thing over and over again and expect a different result? We're crazy. So what are some examples of the same old things we do over and over again and we get the same old results? What are some of the things?
Go to our jobs.
Okay, so I don't know what that means, and we're not going to get into it now.
Relationships.
Relationships. Okay, we do the same old pattern in relationships, right? And we may go from partner to partner, and we're still doing the same patterns, and we get the same results. Yeah. Anything else? What else is same old, same old? Okay, yeah, choices in our food. Yeah, drink that soda pop day after day and get sicker and sicker. So there's lots of ways in which we do the same old, same old. And mainly it's about our attitudes. We have the same attitude about people, about situations, about people we work with, people we're married to, people we've raised, right? We react in the same old ways. Well, we're going to be looking at that because we want to do things differently. So the Boston Marathon bombing is a teacher that has come to us as a nation. So we get our individual teachers, and we also get, as a culture, as a society, we also get something like this as a teacher. What do we get to learn about this?
Forgiveness.
That's it. That's it. So, Jesus taught us how to be proactive in a situation, an awful situation. So as we know, when he was hanging from the cross, what did he say?
Forgive them, Father.
Father, forgive them, for they know not what they is how we get to be proactive. So what does it mean they know not what they do? What did he mean by that?
Cause and effect, consequences that they were creating for themselves.
But here's the thing. They were creating consequences for themselves, but the reason they were is because we are the product of mass consciousness programming. They didn't know how to do anything differently other than how they had been programmed. An eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, right? And Jesus came and said, hey, that's not the way to do it, but they hadn't learned that yet. And so he knew that they were in the mass consciousness programming. And you know, for I don't know, several decades already, we have known that we are programmed. And those of us who know that we are programmed are doing everything in our power to break free of the programming. But there are plenty of people who may know about it, but they still live trapped in the programming and still react to events from the programming.
That's because they don't use their free will.
Well, they don't know that that's the case. They think okay, I'm not going to use separation terms. We think that we know what our free will is, but what we don't realize is we are responding or reacting from our programming. So, what are some examples of mass consciousness programming?
Oh, food.
Food?
What we eat.
What we eat.
Yeah.
Okay, yes. What else?
Religion.
Religions?
Yes.
Big time programming, right? What did you say?
What we wear.
What we wear. Oh yeah, and speaking of what we wear, also what our idea of beauty is, right? Skinny, skinny, skinny girls. What else?
More to love here, so
Disease.
Pardon?
Disease.
Disease. So we're programmed for disease. There's no getting around that. What else? What we watch on television. That's right. We are so programmed. I mean, none of us can say that we have escaped the programming. Dan?
What we listen to for music.
What we'll listen to for music?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how random that.
Yeah, someone said television.
Well, because it's always been done. It's always been that way. We've always done it this way, so we just keep
We keep doing it the same old way. Same old is same old.
same old, same old.
Yep.
Perception of lack.
What is it? Perception of
of
lack. Yeah, we are programmed for lack. There is never enough of something, right? Okay, good examples, you guys. So, we absolutely need to break away. But the only way we can break away is to become conscious of the fact that we're trapped in the mass consciousness programming. So forgiveness, yes?
I found just this last week a trap, or I call it a block for me.
Yes?
I had said, well, I think I deserve that. And I thought, well, why would I deserve that? God's already given me everything. And yet, that if I had done what I thought I deserved, I might have put myself in more financial debt, or I would have treated myself with something that wasn't good to eat because it was supposed to treat. Or I would have not called somebody because, no, they deserve it. They deserve not to hear from me. You know, I was judging. And
Yes,
so
judgment.
The judgment and the word I deserve can be a big program.
Yes, yes. It depends on what we put behind I deserve.
Yes.
Yes, that's for sure. So there's lots of factors to take into consideration.
How about God's going to punish you? I mean, who grew up with that?
Oh,
God's gonna
lots
punish
of you. Lots of people grew up with God's going to punish you, right? Yeah, so that's part of mass consciousness programming too. So actually, we can go on and on and on as the little wheels, as the little cogs turn, and think of more and more ways in which we are programmed. And I invite you to do that. Well, we've talked about this before. So what is our purpose here on earth?
Live in our bliss.
Live in our bliss. And how do we live in our bliss?
Raise our consciousness.
There's only two things that we are to do. It doesn't matter what your profession or vocation is. Your only purpose is to love and be loved. That's your only purpose.
Yes.
Sandra, let me tell you something that I realized a long time ago. Good always prevails.
Good always
Always
prevails.
prevails.
Yes. Thank you, Rosie. So, forgiveness is the ultimate act of love. What do you think?
Yes.
I mean, for Jesus to be dying in a most torturous way and to have so much love in his heart that he could say, forgive them, they know not what they do. That is the great example for us. So I'm going to teach you a little tool, okay? So as you know, I'm the teacher. I try not to be the preacher because I love to teach. And this is called Ho'oponopono. Okay?
How do you spell that?
How do you spell it? Actually, it's easier than you think. H-O-O, so you pronounce both O's, Ho'o, and then Pono, P-O-N-O, and then Pono again, P-O-N-O. Ho'oponopono. Yes. I know that because I'm from Hawaii. So, Ho'oponopono is an ancient Hawaiian tradition that was used for reconciling family differences. But it has since evolved to this day, and I'm going to tell you about one of the people who influenced its evolution. His name was Dr. I Haleakala Hulen. And he was contracted to work for 4 years at the Hawaii State Mental Institution in the ward with the criminally insane. Now, he describes what this ward was like. It was very scary. The patients there, well, they had done some horrendous deeds. So much so that no one thought that they would ever be released from the hospital. Some of them were shackled inside the ward, and most were heavily medicated. Nevertheless, the psychiatrists who were hired to work in the ward would quit after a month of working there. And the staff, the nurses and the rest of the staff, well, let's just say there was a very high turnover. Nobody wanted to be there. It was so scary. So Dr. I Haleakala, in his first month, made tremendous differences. And people said, how did you do this? What he did was, he would take the records of each individual and he would look at the records. And he never saw a single patient. Okay? Not a single patient came to lay on his couch for therapy. He did Ho'oponopono. He says, to change our reality, we have to change ourselves. To change self requires total responsibility for your experiences. And because we are one, any error that a person clears in their own consciousness clears the consciousness of others. So he says, I looked inside myself to see the part that I was playing in their illness. Now, that's a remarkable thing, isn't it? And when he saw the part that he was playing in their illness, he said, I forgive you. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Got ahead of myself. He said, I'm sorry to them. I'm sorry. I love you. Please forgive me. Thank you. So, what are some examples of the way we might be contributing to someone else's illness? Larry? Judgment. Yeah. So every time we judge, we add to the mass consciousness, don't we? There's a blanket of negative mass consciousness, and every time we go to the negative, we actually add to it. We empower it. We grow it. And we want to change that. Because we are light workers, aren't we?
Yes.
We are light workers, and as light workers, we are going to create change. So, any other examples of how we each play a part?
Well, we act on our judgments, too.
Okay, we act on our judgments.
Denial.
Okay, denial. Gossip.
Acting on
There's lots of ways, okay, that we add to it. Sam?
God always says what you think you create.
What you think you create. Whoa. That's one of our major tenets here at Unity, isn't it? We create from our thoughts. So, Dr. Ihalekala said, everything in your life, because it is your life, is your creation and therefore your responsibility. Everything you don't like in your life is up to you to heal. Now, I want to make a distinction here, okay? On planet Earth, we live in the realm of cause and effect. Do we not? And there are consequences for what we create. If we have a particular lifestyle, there's going to be consequences for that lifestyle. If we have particular habits, there's going to be consequences for our habits. So, in Ho'oponopono, it is not for us to take responsibility of saving somebody from their consequences. That's not going to happen. Not on the physical level anyway, okay? But on the energetic level, that's where we do the work. That's where we create change. So when asked, how do you heal yourself? Because he's saying, I heal myself. He said, I evoke the spirit of love to heal within me what I created in outer circumstances. So that's what we get to do. We get to evoke the spirit of love to heal within us whatever is creating in the outer world. And we do this by saying, I'm sorry, and I love you. So, I'm going to lead you through the process. Is that okay?
Yeah.
So, let's use the two brothers who were responsible for the bombings at the Boston Marathon. So I want you to hold them in mind right now. And even though one is dead, the energy of that brother is still here, right? So we get to do the work for him as well. So hold this person in mind and say, I'm sorry for any beliefs I have about you that have energetically contributed to this situation. What are some beliefs that I have, or that our society together have, that has contributed to this situation? I'm sorry for any thoughts that I've had. I'm sorry for any words that I've spoken or any deeds that I've done that have energetically contributed to anything less than love. For you know not what you do. As you are caught up, you are trapped in mass consciousness. And I love you. As a human being, with the Christ light in you, the Christ light that can shine when you're not trapped in the mass consciousness programming. Christ in you, I so love as a fellow human being. Please forgive me the part I've played. Thank you. So that's the whole Ho'oponopono process. Now, I'm going to ask you to do something even harder. Because those two brothers, as hard as it was to know that this terrorism took place, it's not in your personal realm, is it? So it's kind of easier to make that prayer. I want you to think of someone in your immediate life who causes irritation, who you might be angry with. We're going to go through the process again. Okay? Now remember, this isn't about changing someone. They get to face the consequences of their choices, their creations. This is about something else on a whole different level. Okay? Does everybody have in mind someone that you have irritation, aggravation around? Yes, Larry?
A couple of things. I think that first it also could be yourself, okay? I don't know if you're going to go there or not. But it doesn't necessarily have to be a person. It could also be in a situation.
It could be a situation. That's true. So if you have a situation, you can use that. Because both the person and the situation is our teacher. Okay, so hold this person in mind and say, I'm sorry for my attitude of about you, or my belief, this particular belief about you. I'm And I'm sorry for any thoughts that I have about you. Any words that I've spoken to you. Any deeds that I've done that have energetically contributed to your situation that is less than love. And I love you. Please forgive me. Thank you. Okay, so I'm not saying that your beliefs and attitudes will immediately change, but your willingness to practice forgiveness will allow the Holy Spirit will allow your mind to be in the care of Holy Spirit. Your willingness to practice forgiveness will put your mind in the care of Holy Spirit. And on that level, there will be change in your hearts. For it is the answer. It is what will make the difference in our world. It is the ultimate act of love. May you do it with everyone in your life and in situations around the world. Namaste.
Namaste.